Every baptized person is called to be a missionary. So we have a call from the Lord Himself to proclaim the gospel wherever we are.
Our world today needs witnesses, giving a witness to Jesus Christ, His compassion and hope. That was the original intention of Pauline Jaricot.
Pauline Jaricot is still inspiring our work because she gave, in a very simple way, the charisma of the Pontifical Mission Societies.
Marie Pauline Jaricot, she is an icon of faith to every woman, to every laity person.
Wherever we are, our state of life is the beginning of what we can do and what we can be.
The work of Pauline Jaricot is evident all over the world today. There's no place you can go that it's not been touched by Pauline Jaricot.
Pauline Jaricot's vision that started in a small town in France has now become one of the largest missionary outreach organizations to touch all the corners of the earth. What an amazing witness to the power of one person to transform the whole world.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, ciascuno di noi è una missione in questa terra. Siamo qui per testimoniare, benedire, consolare, rialzare, trasmettere la bellezza di Gesù. Coraggio.
World Mission Sunday was originally instituted in 1926 by Pope Pius XI as a day for the whole church to pray for the missions, to pray for the people who have not heard the gospel, and to pray for the missionaries who leave their homeland in order to bring the gospel to many, many parts of the world. The World Mission Sunday collection. It was inspired by Pauline Jaricot and the other Pontifical Mission Societies.
What is the Pontifical Mission Societies? What is it that we do? It's to recognize that I am part of a broad, worldwide family, a worldwide network of prayer and almsgiving to assist those who are just coming now to know Christ, so that their faith might be strong. This is at the heart of World Mission Sunday. It's the command of Christ to St. Peter, strengthen your brothers.
We celebrate the fact that our faith is missionary by nature. And this gives us the possibility to animate the faithful, that they discover this missionary vocation everyone has, and also to share what they can in order to help their brothers and sisters in other parts of the world.
The Mission Sunday is that one day where everyone is praying towards the missionary activities to support the work that the Pope is doing.
We have gathered children from different parishes. We had about 3,000 children who have gathered for the prayer of the Rosary. So this is the big event which is done every year.
Marie Pauline Jaricot, the work that she did reminds us every day of what we should do in our mission of evangelization.
This Society for Propagation of the Faith raises awareness among all the baptized and encourages the spirit that fosters prayer.
Christians know the charism of pontifical mission societies, and these charisms are faith, universal church, and mission.
They have been helping and supporting us a lot, and this cannot forget the background we have with Mary Jaricot. And she has begun something which is very, very essential.
You understand? She was a linchpin, a springboard to what that is happening today.
Because you have brought to us something which really looks like a chair.
The charisma of Pauline Jaricot was aimed at helping people to live out their own missionary vocation. And so we can ask ourselves after 200 years, what does it mean for our Christian people, for our baptized people? What does it mean to be missionary?
Pauline Jaricot was born on July 22nd, 1799, in Lyon, in France. Her family was typical of the day, very pious, very hardworking, and large.
Pauline was born at the end of the French Revolution, at a time when the Catholic Church had been under assault, really for the last decade.
By the time she became an infant in 1799, her family was considered almost like an outlaw group. The revolution had spread its very menacing, almost poisonous aspects into all aspects of French society, but especially into the church. The Catholicism of the Middle Ages was completely gone. The faith carried on simply in families, passing it on from one generation to another. This was the experience of the Jaricot family as well.
Sa famille, comme tous les Lyonnais, connaît une période très difficile, marquée par les violences de la terreur. À Lyon, la terreur a fait près de 2000 morts, fusillés ou guillotinés. Et parmi ces morts, il y a beaucoup de catholiques et beaucoup de familles catholiques qui ont été très marquées par ça. Le désir en 1799, c'est de restaurer la confiance, restaurer l'Église.
The Jerichos were close-knit, had lots and lots of family encounters, lots of cousins, all very connected to the city of Lyon. They were well known in the city, in part because of Antoine's business, and Pauline herself was totally devoted to her parents.
Phileas et Pauline sont les deux petits de la famille. Ils s'entendent très bien, ils se chamaillent beaucoup, mais ils sont absolument inséparables.
Pauline affiche avec son frère très tôt une très grande ferveur, et lui, comme on parlait des missionnaires aussi, déjà très tôt, il y a cette envie de vouloir être missionnaire et de reconquérir, de conquérir les âmes, même les âmes hors de France.
With the end of the revolution and coming of the Napoleonic period, which meant more toleration, the father's silk factory could continue to prosper. It's here that Pauline is going to become a much more prominent person.
Le père a de l'aisance, il a réussi, il a même fait fortune, et Pauline est prise dans cette société. Et cette société bourgeoise, il y a de la mondanité, elle s'habille bien, elle se met de beaux vêtements, des bijoux.
She was really deeply conflicted in many ways, and really sort of represents her own spiritual growth, but also represents French society at the time. She loved going to parties, and she loved being the center of attention at parties. But at the same time, she also had a deep religious sensibility, and she really experienced a religious conversion, particularly around the time when she herself became ill.
Lorsqu'elle avait 15 ans, Pauline a connu un accident qui l'a marquée physiquement et qui, sans nul doute, l'a fait grandir en maturité. Cet accident, qui a pu avoir un retentissement visible, l'a marqué, a marqué son entourage.
En fait, elle tombe d'un tabouret. Alors, on pense qu'elle s'est blessée, que la blessure a été mal soignée, s'est inflammée, et du coup, elle tombe malade, et gravement malade. Elle se décrit elle-même pendant cette période-là, c'est absolument épouvantable.
She was bedridden for a number of months, at which time her own mother nursed her back to health, or so she thought, because in the process of tending her mom, Jean, died. It was just too exhausting for her mother to care for her daughter. So this was a completely traumatic incident in this young girl's life.
Her recovery was painful and slow. And then listening to a sermon in her parish, she had this profound, I would say, religious awakening, deep experience of I would say, the Paschal mystery of the suffering, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And she had this great desire to deepen that experience and to share it with others.
Elle décide de plus se tourner vers Christ, et c'est à ce moment-là que justement, elle fait vœu de chasteté, de se consacrer à l'Église.
Et son cœur, qui brûlait déjà d'amour pour le Seigneur, va se manifester encore plus clairement dans l'amour des autres, et en particulier des pauvres. Son cœur était nourri par une vie de prière, en particulier par l'adoration eucharistique, par la prière très fidèle à la Vierge Marie, l'a tourné vers les autres.
Now we have a young woman who is part of a bourgeois Catholic family in Lyon, whose father owns a silk factory. The silk factory is now in the midst of a newly industrial society. She's very concerned about the women workers in silk factories, and so she wants to organize them. And so she goes about this by setting up a society of prayer. The Reparation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus is what it's called. And it's a group of women, working women, who come together and they will start to pray.
Pauline se trouve là, dans les rues de Lyon, avec ses filles qu'elle embauche à la fois dans la charité et dans l'évangélisation. Et en même temps, elle est stimulée par son frère, qui est Philéas. Il est en lien avec les missions étrangères de Paris. Et il est sollicité pour aller au secours de la Chine.
Even though he was enrolled in the seminary in Paris to send missionaries to China, his health would not permit it. After ordination, he came home. He settled in Lyon and helped her as much as possible. And so for the two of them, they worked out very practical ways in which young people could help. For the Jaricots, that involved the use of the family fortune for good.
Pauline voyait bien qu'autour d'elle, la foi n'était pas partagée par tous. Et donc, elle voulait que le Christ soit connu et aimé par un plus grand nombre de personnes.
Pauline est une femme qui a une imagination et une créativité absolument extraordinaire. C'est sa force, quelque part, sa créativité et sa foi. On est, après la Révolution française, dans une période d'un très grand renouveau missionnaire. Les missions intéressent tout le monde à ce moment-là. Pauline est mobilisée par son frère. Et donc, elle a à la fois, j'allais dire, la main-d'œuvre à portée de main, avec ses réparatrices, et puis les sollicitations de son frère.
Pauline Jaricot, elle se dit, moi je vais faire une chose, c'est que mes réparatrices du Sacré-Cœur, je vais les mobiliser pour qu'elles donnent de l'argent.
She had a very simple idea that had universal scope. It's a very, very simple idea. She thought, let us have 10 people that pray, reflect about the missions, and offer 1 penny, not much, 1 penny each. And have them each try to find 10 other people to find another circle, to do the same. And in effect, what she did was she created a worldwide network.
10 people praying together, and then 10 people, each one dropping a penny in the collection basket. Gradually, the number of 10 became the number of hundreds, the number of hundreds became numbers of thousands. And she did not only collect money, but trained other women to do smaller things, smaller projects that could raise money for the missions.
Génie de Pauline là-dedans, c'est qu'elle a mobilisé tous les laïcs dans l'effort de la mission. Ça ne concerne pas que des prêtres, des frères, des religieuses, ça va concerner tout le peuple chrétien, qu'elle va mettre dans une même association, lier l'ensemble de la chrétienté. Et c'est donc cette œuvre qui va donc s'appeler l'œuvre de la propagation de la foi.
The catalyst for the founding of the Society of the Propagation of the Faith was a meeting that occurred in May 1822 in the apartment of the Vicar General of the Bishop of Louisiana in the city of Lyon in France. Pauline Jaricot is the figure who's recognized as the main foundress of the association, but there were other people who were involved in the establishment of the society.
Les personnalités qui ont aidé Pauline Jaricot dès le départ dans cette association, c'est évidemment Philéas, son frère, prêtre, c'est son Victor Giraudon, puis Benoît Coste, Et ils la soutiennent dans cette œuvre et ils décident même de lui donner un contenu plus juridique.
À cette réunion, ces messieurs discutent donc d'une œuvre pour aller au secours des missions, faire connaître les missions, générer des vocations. À cette réunion du 3 mai est adopté le plan de Pauline. C'est l'acte fondateur, en quelque sorte, de la propagation de la foi.
L'œuvre de la propagation de la foi va connaître un très très grand développement, un très grand rayonnement qui dure encore aujourd'hui.
As the society's membership grew, it came to the attention of the local bishop that this was something that's going to catch on. The higher-ups, they realized this had national and perhaps even international significance. And so it required a certain amount of authority that only the Pope could give. Pope Gregory was really enthusiastic about the whole project, decided this is well worth pursuing. It was not a difficult choice to approve this society.
The Society for the Propagation of the Faith was deeply involved in the whole of the United States, which was a mission territory well until the 20th century, but particularly in the American South, where Catholics comprise less than 3% of the population.
As an American, I think to myself, we have been such beneficiaries of this work. In the late 1800s and or very early 1900s, we were recipients of about $7 million. When you think that people in France, lay people, not professional religious, were concerned, interested, and wanting to support the growing of the church here. Why? Because they encountered Christ, they knew Christ, they loved Christ, and they wanted others to come to know and love him as well.
2/3, in fact, came to the Diocese of New Orleans. Bishop Dubourg, who was a French bishop in the United States, had been working in the diocese for a number of years. And so Bishop Dubourg was one of the first recipients of society funds. 2/3 went to his diocese, another third went to the Chinese missions.
What's fascinating is Pauline Jaricot, in her own writings, she refers to the light that lit the match of the world. And so in so many ways, her own particular sense of the role and the importance of the missions in the United States really do represent not only her own missionary heart, but really a prophetic spirit that indicates in so many ways that the church in the United States would actually become a beacon of light and evangelization for the rest of the world.
Au lendemain de la fondation de la propagation de la foi en 1822, Pauline retire. Elle se retire à peu près de toutes ses actions. Son directeur spirituel, à ce moment-là, est persuadé qu'elle a une vocation contemplative et il l'empêche littéralement de se livrer à toutes ses activités de charité. Elle lui obéissait. Elle vit cette période très difficile, mais par rapport à la propagation de la foi, ça va se répandre dans toute la France, dans l'Europe, dans le monde entier, et Pauline devient étrangère à ce qui s'y passe. Elle va sortir de cette période difficile au moment de la mort de son directeur spirituel en 1826, et Pauline est très marquée par cette mort. Elle passe son temps au pied de la croix à Saint-Nizier. L'Eucharistie a une importance très grande aussi pour elle. Elle prie beaucoup aussi la Vierge Marie. Et avec ses réparatrices, elle voudrait bien les entraîner dans sa spiritualité, dans sa prière. Et donc, elle se demande comment elle pourrait permettre que le rosaire soit prié par un plus grand nombre de personnes. Et c'est là qu'elle, avec toujours son génie de l'invention et son génie des solidarités, en inventant ce qu'elle appelle le rosaire vivant.
C'est toujours des intuitions assez géniales qui arrivent comme ça dans la pensée de Pauline. Pauline a l'intuition qu'il faut redonner le goût de Dieu, toujours dans l'esprit de la reconquête spirituelle. Elle va mettre en place ce qu'on appelle le rosaire vivant.
What Pauline has is the idea of a rosary society that will involve 15 members in each, we'll call them cells. And that's 15 members of the society because there are 15 mysteries of the rosary. 5 glorious, 5 sorrowful, 5 joyful. So the idea was you have 15 mysteries, you have 15 people, each of them praying a different mystery of the rosary every day, each of them contributing a little bit of a sou to it. They call it the living rosary because this means constantly, everywhere throughout the world, the rosary is being prayed, the Virgin Mary is being venerated.
Avec le rosaire vivant, a toujours eu à l'esprit une dimension missionnaire, car elle est profondément convaincue, comme toute l'Église, que la Vierge Marie est proche de toute personne sur cette terre.
Idée simple, et géniale en fait, et qui va fonctionner absolument à merveille, et prendre une extension absolument extraordinaire et très rapidement mondiale. Par exemple, rien qu'en France, à la mort de Pauline en 1862, il y a 2,5 millions d'associés du rosaire vivant.
Elle achète justement en 1831 la maison à Lyon, qu'elle va appeler Maison de Lorette, qui fait écho à la Lorette, la maison de la Vierge en Italie. Et là, elle y met d'ailleurs une invocation au Marie conçue sans péché. Et dans cette maison, elle a l'adoration eucharistique, mais elle réunit, comme toujours, des jeunes filles de toutes conditions qui viennent, qu'elle va appeler les filles de Marie, et qui vont justement se lancer dans cette prière et puis dans les œuvres de charité aussi.
Elle vivait déjà personnellement une consécration dans le secret de son cœur. Mais elle voyait bien autour d'elle des personnes qui avaient envie de vivre une vie consacrée. Et donc, elle a réuni ces femmes qui étaient issues aussi de milieux très différents. Cette maison de Lorette, elle appartient aujourd'hui encore aux œuvres pontificales missionnaires. C'est vraiment un lieu de pèlerinage que l'on peut recommander.
In 1834, Pauline decided to make a pilgrimage to Rome. Partly this was to ask that all of the work that she had done be transferred to Rome. But it was also personal. She had an intense desire not only to make a pilgrimage to Rome in part as a reparation for the church in France and to try and build peace in French society. She also had this desire to go visit holy places as a means to cure her own health. Some of this was her mental health, some of it was her physical health.
Health concerns had always been an issue for Pauline, and by 1835, her health had deteriorated so badly that many feared she did not have long to live. Pauline left for Italy in 1835 on a pilgrimage to pray for healing.
By the time she arrives, she's completely exhausted and takes up residence in a convent, which is led by Madeleine Sophie Barat. So Madeleine Sophie is the head of the Religious Sisters of the Sacred Heart. The Pope hears of this and decides to go and visit her there. She tells the Pope that she intends to further her pilgrimage to go to the tomb of Saint Philomena. Saint Philomena's tomb is just outside of Naples in a town called Mugnano. And so the Pope protested that Pauline was too ill to go, but she said, "I'll make a deal with you. If I return from my pilgrimage, you have to move this cause forward." She makes the pilgrimage in 1835.
On est en août 1835. Pendant la prière dans l'église où sont les reliques de Philomène, elle ressent quelque chose dans son corps. Elle rentre dans sa chambre et le lendemain, elle sort debout et elle repart à Rome sur ses pieds. Elle va voir le pape qui l'a fait marcher devant elle, qui l'a fait bouger, etc. Et qui va lui demander d'ailleurs de rester plusieurs mois à Rome le temps de vérifier la guérison. Le pape, là, reconnaît la sainteté de cette Philomène. Et Pauline repart après en France avec des reliques de Sainte Philomène, dont une relique qu'elle remet au curé d'Ars, qui lui aussi aurait été guéri par l'intercession de Sainte Philomène, et qui a fait aussi une grande dévotion à Ars autour de Sainte Philomène.
I think that her trips to Rome and then her contact with the relics of Saint Philomena reinforced her sense of Catholicity, that is universality, and the importance of building the community of the church.
After her pilgrimage to Mugnano and then returning via Rome, she came back home to Lyon. In 1839, a few years after this, the charity had really blossomed.
Pauline Jaricot not only inspired the creation of the propagation of the faith, but she also influenced the establishment of what would become another pontifical society, the Missionary Childhood Association.
Monseigneur Forbin Janson, évêque de Nancy. Il revient en 1842 voir Pauline Jaricot, dont il a soutenu l'œuvre dès le début. Et il lui dit, voilà, j'aimerais faire quelque chose pour les enfants dans les pays. Et Pauline Jaricot lui propose de demander à tous les enfants de la chrétienté de sacrifier les sous de leur menu plaisir et de le donner pour les enfants, pour les œuvres et le soutien des enfants dans les missions.
Charles Forbin Janson had this deep desire to help children in mission countries, both to get to know Jesus and to help them in their lives. His idea was children helping children, children bearing witness to the faith, sharing the faith with children in mission lands. And to this day, it's also worldwide, and it's part of the missionary societies throughout the world.
Le 3 décembre 1848, Pauline Jaricot écrit une lettre à son amie Julia Morin où elle lui parle de l'immoralité, de l'exaspération qu'on trouve dans le monde ouvrier, du désespoir qui touche cette catégorie sociale, et elle veut véritablement faire quelque chose pour les ouvriers.
In the 19th century, it was a terrible situation in southern France with the Industrial Revolution. So she had this idea to build a factory with decent wages, decent spare time for the workers, for their families, for church, for prayer, almost like a cooperative. And she invested all of her money in that project.
She enlisted the help of several family financial advisors. She located a site and required 2 individuals to help her develop it. At the suggestion of one of them, they tried to reconvert an old factory into this spiritual center that also respected worker rights. 2 financial advisors asked her for 500,000 francs, an enormous sum in those days, for the reconversion of this factory.
Pauline ne pouvait pas gérer elle-même au quotidien cette usine et elle en a confié la gestion à 2 personnes qui se sont révélées des personnes malhonnêtes. Et Pauline a été profondément blessée, attristée de voir qu'elle qui avait mis toute sa fortune au service des pauvres, tout ceci était gaspillé par des personnes qui n'étaient pas droites dans leur comportement.
Pauline was forced into bankruptcy. This bankruptcy hurt not only the Jaricot family, it embarrassed the society and its board of directors. How could this young girl, who's now a woman, how could she fall victim to these 2 scoundrels?
La bourgeoisie lyonnaise lui tourne définitivement le dos. Elle n'est plus qu'une pauvresse, elle n'est plus qu'une indigente. Elle qui était une fille qui avait l'argent et qui avait aidé les autres, elle devient à son tour une indigente.
As she experienced disappointments, as she experienced various people who were trying to take advantage of her, trying to take advantage of the Society for the Propagation of the Faith, and in the midst of all of that, she saw her suffering as united to the suffering of Christ.
She registered in the poverty rolls of Lyon. And yet she never complained and never condemned those who defrauded her. I'm told that after her death, they found behind the tabernacle of a chapel where she prayed little notes to God, asking God to give the ones who defrauded her salvation and forgiveness. So she died praying even for those who harmed her. Woman of remarkable caliber, remarkable humility, remarkable zeal for the spread of the gospel, for the proclamation of the gospel throughout the world.
C'est ce qui est étonnant chez Pauline, c'est qu'elle va jusqu'au bout et jusqu'à la fin garder confiance et garder confiance en Dieu. Elle n'est pas morte martyre, mais elle est c'est une forme de martyre aussi qu'elle a subie.
While Pauline ended her life in dire poverty and destitution, the work that she began grew and soon spread all around the world. In 1840, Pope Gregory XVI placed the society in the rank of universal Catholic institutions. Numerous provincial and national councils, including the third of the plenary councils of Baltimore in 1884, enacted decrees and published letters in favor of its development.
In the 1880s, the office for the society opened here in the United States. Initially, it was based at St. Mary's Seminary in Baltimore. That office, based at St. Mary's in Baltimore, was without doubt a kind of nerve center for the society. By 1908, when it was taken off the Vatican's roles as a missionary territory, the society had relied on the United States more and more for its global missionary efforts.
In the post-World War II years in the United States, there was a great sense of confidence in the Catholic Church. And out of this comes a desire to give back. Where we were once the mission lands supported by the propagation of the faith, now it's our turn to give back. A generous and confident spirit that was perhaps best exemplified by Bishop Fulton Sheen, who was the National Director of the Propagation of the Faith.
One mother told us about her 4-year-old son in Philadelphia who dressed up as a bishop. And because he knew that we were engaged in mission work and helping the poor and the lepers, decided to go out in his rather authentic-looking Episcopal costume and beg for our missions. And he collected $25 and some cookies.
Uncle Fulty, as he became known, was not only a prominent intellectual, but also a radio personality and eventually a television personality who used this platform, again, to spread the gospel of mission. Fulton Sheen really raised the bar in terms of collecting for foreign missions, so that by the time he retired in the 1960s, it's estimated that $200 million was collected for foreign missions.
And the mother wrote to us and said that she was enclosing a check for the $25 which he had collected for the missions and for the lepers, but he was keeping the cookies as his commission. I wrote to the mother and told her that we never have any homemade cookies, and I was suggesting that the next time he keep some of the money and send us the cookies.
Well, the work of the mission still continues in the various ways in which it supports our missionaries, and propagates the faith is still the main support for many of these dioceses.
The Society for the Propagation of the Faith today is one of the largest, if not the largest, missionary organization in the world. It's under the auspices of the pontifical mission.
We have 4 societies. The first one was the Society for the Propagation of Faith, founded by Pauline Jaricot. The second is the Society for the Holy Childhood. Then at the end of the 19th century, again in France, was born the Society of St. Peter Apostle. And the last one was at the beginning of the 20th century, the Pontifical Missionary Union.
Well, to be pontifical means to, first of all, be under the guidance of the Holy Father and to be universal. They were made pontifical in 1922 by Pope Pius XI. He saw in these societies a great resource for the universal church for the support of the missions.
They are 4, but actually they are interconnected. All of them, at the heart of their contribution to the church, is to promote prayer for the mission. But secondly, there is also charity for the mission.
Jesus is the first missionary. He came with the good news. Pauline Jaricot was inspired to begin something that has resulted into the Society for the Propagation of the Faith. We are the Pauline Jaricot of our time. What she did, we can also continue to do.
We are called to build upon what Pauline has done. And this is our missionary vocation, to recognize that encounter with Christ is going to call us to be at the service of one another.
Soy un presbítero misionero de la diócesis de Managua y estoy participando de una misión muy particular en medio de los indígenas de Nicaragua, de los indígenas misquitos y mayagnas, en la zona fronteriza con Honduras. Esta fortaleza y esta fuerza de la evangelización nace en esta reciprocidad de aquel que recibe y aquel que puede dar. Yo creo que la gracia más grande está en dar. Yo le doy gracias a Dios que soy misionero, que estoy en este lugar tan alejado. Yo siento que Dios me ha bendecido con esta gracia, una santificación que viene por la gracia del Espíritu Santo.
The Jaricot Center was created in the year 2000 and is coming from the needs that we had, in this case in Batamban, of many young people and children that they had disabilities, and these disabilities was bringing them to the hospital, and the rehabilitation was asking a long time. So we created this home to welcome them.
But since you are been dollar pay, nhom lambakច្រើនកូនច្រើនអត់លំបាកហើយកូនធ្លាក់ពិការយ៉ាងបាក់មែនទេ
Many people in Cambodia has been the private, or they take away their basic rights, no? And we need to give them the possibility to have them back, and for them to have ownership of them, no? And to be able to work with them, no? With the basic rights. And as we cooperate with that, we're giving back dignity to these children, no?
So I became a nun. I wanted to serve God through these disabled people.
Try working with them. Then from there he used the walker. Now he has all the Charles, he fell from a tree and got his spine injured. Their families are not able to support them, and so someone helped him find this place here. When I see these people suffering, it is really saddening, and it gives me a great joy when I am there to help them. And at the end of the day, when someone is happy because of a little thing you've done for them, it gives a lot of joy and satisfaction. First of all, we need a prayer. The energy we derive from the food we eat is not enough. We need God's grace. So it is very important for people out there to pray for us that we may give a faithful service to these people. We do what is required of us. I really see God has really been faithful, God has done so many things to our lives. He has taken good care of us.
God bless you.
We are all doing the same work, each one doing and playing their part, and especially as disciples and followers of Jesus Christ, Jesus needs all of us. And by virtue of our baptism, we are commissioned to carry on that same work. We are all working together to make sure that the good news we have received, the gift of faith we have received, also spreads and reaches to all the ends of the earth.
The process for Pauline's canonization was introduced in the city of Lyon by the local bishop in 1907. By 1930, the local or informational cause is closed and the Roman cause begins. So this is a very thorough and detailed examination of all of her collected writings.
In the 1960s, early 60s, Pope St. John the 23rd had her life examined and had her declared the venerable servant of God. Already then, the process for her canonization was opened, and therefore her life story became more and more known. And in 2012, a young girl, 3 years old, choked on a piece of food, and clinically, basically, she died. Her heart stopped, everything stopped, and they had to revive her many times. And the doctor said she would never recover.
15 jours après ce drame, apprenant cela, des enfants de sa classe et des parents des enfants de sa classe, sachant que la cause de Pauline est en cours, sollicitent explicitement Pauline pour que par son intercession,
after about a month, she sat up, and a year later, she went to the doctor, the expert, a neuro physician, and who looked at the original tests, and then looked at her, and said, "This is simply impossible. This could not have happened." And of course, her parents said, "Well, it's a miracle. It's a miracle through the intercession of Paulina." All of this information was sent to the postulator in Lyon. And then in 2020, in May, the Pope affirmed that this was a bona fide miracle through her intercession.
I think it's just absolutely marvelous that now the Church is recognizing what she has done and has begun to elevate Pauline to her place in church history where she belongs. Because there are so many people throughout the world who were the recipients of donations, whether in the past or present.
Pauline Jaricot is very important for the mission. She devoted herself to prayer and for raising funds for foreign missions, for training of priests and missionaries. So this work that she started as a humble young woman resulted in gathering many people to pray for the mission of the church, to support this mission of the church.
She offered everything that she could, including calling upon fellow women to have institutions that were going around doing missionary work. And the work that she did those days is what we are witnessing today.
Elle peut être proposée comme modèle aux femmes et aux hommes, aux laïcs, aux jeunes pour aujourd'hui. Parce qu'elle nous montre quelque part le modèle d'une foi qui est incarnée.
Pauline dies penniless and now is raised to the altars. She died in poverty, and yet now she is among those who are called upon for prayer and intercession by the whole church.
Pauline started the Society of the Propagation of the Faith as a local participation in the global mission of the church. It was given the blessing of the Pope to become the center of the church's global outreach, but it never lost its local connection. That represents in so many ways the role of the Society of the Propagation of the Faith in touching hearts and lives, one heart, one mind, and one soul at a time.
My real hope is that her life story becomes well known in the church and beyond the church, because I think it has, her life has so much to say to us in the 21st century, both as Christians, as Catholics, but also as people of goodwill. And my hope would be that her life become really well known and that her inspiration can affect others for the better, to make our world a better place to live in.